Most people think communication is simple. If someone likes you, they text you. If they care, they reach out. If they miss you, they make the effort. But reality is far stranger than that. Because some people never text first. Not once. Not after a good conversation. Not after spending an amazing day together. Not even after weeks of silence. And the confusing part is, many of them still care deeply. You've probably met someone like this before. Maybe they respond instantly when you text them. Maybe they seem warm, engaged, even emotionally attached. But the moment the conversation ends, they disappear into silence until you reach out again. At first, it feels personal. Then it becomes frustrating. Eventually, it starts to feel like a test. But psychology suggests that people who never text first are not all motivated by the same thing. In fact, this behavior usually reveals hidden emotional patterns most people never notice.
The first type is the overthinker. These people treat every message like a social risk. Before sending even a simple, "hey," their brain starts running simulations. What if they're bothering you? What if you're busy? What if the conversation feels forced? What if they sound needy? To most people, texting feels casual. To overthinkers, it feels emotionally exposed. So instead of sending the message, they wait for certainty. They wait for a sign that they are welcome. And because certainty never fully arrives, silence becomes safer than rejection. Ironically, many overthinkers appear emotionally distant on the outside while being emotionally hyperactive internally. Their silence is not calmness. It is hesitation disguised as restraint. And this creates a strange cycle. The less they initiate, the more the other person feels unwanted. The more unwanted the other person feels, the less they reach out. Eventually, both people drift apart, even though neither one actually wanted distance.
The second type is the passive validator. These people enjoy attention more than connection. They rarely initiate conversations because initiation requires effort, vulnerability, and emotional investment. But responding gives them all the emotional benefits without the psychological risk. Every incoming text becomes a tiny form of validation, proof that someone is thinking about them, proof that they still matter. And over time, they subconsciously become addicted to being pursued. This is why some people seem fully engaged once you text them, but never make the first move themselves. They are not maintaining the relationship. They are maintaining access to reassurance. The dangerous part is that many passive validators do not even realize they are doing this. Their behavior feels normal to them because they associate attention with affection. But attention is not always love. Sometimes it is just emotional convenience. Then there's the emotionally independent type. These people genuinely do not feel the same social urgency most others feel. They can go days or weeks without texting anyone and feel perfectly fine. Not because they are cold, but because their emotional regulation happens internally instead of socially. Some people need constant interaction to feel connected. Others can feel connected without speaking at all.
This difference causes enormous misunderstandings in relationships. An emotionally expressive person may interpret silence as loss of interest. Meanwhile, the emotionally independent person sees silence as completely neutral. To them, the relationship still exists even when no conversation is happening. This is why certain friendships can resume instantly after months apart, as if no time passed at all. The emotional bond was never dependent on continuous communication in the first place. But there is another category that psychology finds especially interesting. The people who never text first because they learned that needing people is dangerous. These individuals often grew up in environments where emotional vulnerability led to disappointment, rejection, criticism, or abandonment. So they adapted by suppressing visible need. They trained themselves to never chase, never reach out too much, never appear emotionally dependent. Over time, self-protection became personality. What looks like pride is often fear. What looks like disinterest is often emotional armor.
Some of these people desperately want connection, but initiating contact triggers an uncomfortable sense of exposure. If they text first and receive a dry response, delayed reply, or silence, it feels disproportionately painful because it confirms an old emotional wound. So they avoid the risk entirely. This is why emotionally guarded people often wait for others to open the door first. Once invited in, they may become deeply loyal, attentive, and emotionally present. But making the first move feels psychologically unsafe.
Then there's the power dynamic. Some people intentionally avoid texting first because they believe initiation lowers their value. Modern dating culture has turned communication into strategy. People analyze response times, message length, typing indicators, and social media activity like detectives investigating a crime scene. And somewhere along the way, many people started believing that whoever cares less has more power. So they wait.
They wait to avoid looking desperate. They wait to appear mysterious. They wait to maintain control. The problem is that when both people follow this logic, nothing happens. Two people can genuinely like each other while simultaneously trying not to appear too interested. The result is emotional deadlock. A relationship dies quietly, not because attraction was absent, but because vulnerability was. And this reveals something uncomfortable about modern communication. Texting is no longer just communication. It has become emotional symbolism. Who texts first? Who replies fast? Who double texts? Who leaves conversations hanging? People treat these behaviors as measurements of worth, interest, status, and emotional power.
But psychology suggests something important. Healthy relationships usually involve people who are willing to risk small moments of vulnerability consistently, because initiation is vulnerability. Sending the first text means accepting uncertainty. It means risking indifference. It means caring before receiving proof that the other person cares equally. And many people are terrified of that feeling. The truth is, people who never text first are not always arrogant, cold, manipulative, or uninterested. Sometimes they are anxious, sometimes emotionally guarded, sometimes independent, sometimes validation-seeking, sometimes simply exhausted by social pressure. But their behavior still affects relationships. Because eventually, one person gets tired of carrying the emotional weight of initiation alone. No matter the reason behind the silence, relationships cannot survive indefinitely on one-sided effort. Even emotionally secure people begin to feel unwanted when they are always the one reopening the connection. And that is the hidden psychology behind texting. It is rarely about the message itself. It is about fear, ego, attachment, validation, control, vulnerability. A tiny notification on a screen has somehow become one of the clearest windows into the human mind. Because sometimes the hardest thing for a person to say is not, "I love you." Sometimes it's simply, "Hey."